Hello everyone, welcome. My name's Charlie, and today we're going to be playing my first month in Moonstone Island. And this game is actually out right now. You can go pick it up on Steam right this second, and I also have a link in my description that you can use to go check it out. Now, this video is sponsored by Raw Fury, so thank you so much to them, but I'm sure you're thinking, Charlie, what is all this Moonstone Island nonsense? Well, first of all, don't talk about my favorite game of 2023 like that, but in all seriousness, Moonstone Island is everything that I love just packaged into one game. You've got the Pokémon-esque catch all the funny little guys, the dungeons of Zelda, the cozy farming RPG vibes of Stardew, and the overall music and atmosphere of a Ghibli movie. And boy, oh boy, I was so excited to get into it, so without further ado, let's jump right in. As we entered the world of Moonstone Island, I was just straight up snoozing, but I was soon awoken by my dad, who gave me a long tutorial on farming in preparation for my next big adventure of becoming an alchemist. He proceeded to teach me the basics of farming, and after hoeing, planting, and watering some flax seeds, which are used for taming the spirits that can fight for you, and some stone fruit for stamina, I received my mom's medallion. This allowed me to enter a pocket dimension where I'd be making a crucial decision. Oh, is this like my starter? Oh my gosh, who do I choose? I don't like the looks of this guy. This guy is devilish and I like it, but I think I gotta go with the cool freaking dinosaur. I decided to name the little guy Panko, my beloved. Shortly after, a wild spirit appeared, so naturally Panko and I decided to knock its absolute socks off. Now in this game, banishing wild spirits is as simple as weakening their armor and lowering their health, and you do this by building a deck of cards. For example, when I used this bash card, the Gemlin's armor was weakened and it became dizzy, allowing me to throw rocks at it and defeat the poor little guy. I mean, I suppose we could have tamed and captured him, but that was for another time, because after our battle, Mom! In the house, my mom explained to me that my Moonstone medallion could store up to 3 spirits at a time, and gave me a Nimbus plant to feed Panko as a treat. With all the basics down, it was time to embark on my journey of becoming an alchemist, and with tools from my dad, a handful of seeds, and some parting words from Mom, I hopped onto my broomstick and took to the skies. Peace out. Now, one of the coolest features of this game is the ability to explore the many randomly generated islands and temples using flying apparatuses such as the broomstick, but tonight that was not on the agenda. It's supposed to be this hard to stay on? Oh no, I think I'm losing control. Waking up on the ground, I came to the realization that I had dropped everything, which was definitely not ideal. Slowly but surely, I gathered some of the things I'd lost and even found some other stuff lying around. A moonstone? But suddenly, the clock struck 2, which is apparently the exact hour my body refuses to go on, and I passed out in the grass. When I came to, I immediately woke up to a strange face. Apparently, this person, Asono, had watched me fall from the sky, which was only mildly embarrassing, but she'd also managed to find all of my tools, so I was very grateful. As we spoke more, I found out she was the owner of a tavern, and she helped me get on my feet, giving me a tent and the recipe for a selling crate, which would allow me to make some money. She also tasked me with mining some stone to repair her basement, which I was happy to do, but before starting, I saw someone else in the tavern who did. I love you. Now, fantastic news. The NPCs in this game are befriendable, and you can even fall in love and go on dates. And I was pretty smitten with Guyana and contemplated flirting with her, but got too scared, so decided to find a place to set down my roots instead. Upon exiting the tavern, I received a drone-delivered letter from my mom. Hi, sweetheart, your dad thinks I'm silly for writing a letter so soon after you left, but I had a horrible dream that you broke your broom. I'm sure you're fine, but I left you a crafting recipe for a balloon in case you're not. And then scoped out this juicy piece of real estate for my new home. I want my house to be right there. How do I do this? To accomplish this, I'd need a bridge first, which required wood and stone. But as I was gathering the materials, I stumbled across what appeared to be a mine shaft. Of course, I hopped right in and found a chest with some incredible loot. This is so cool. But after opening that chest, I climbed back up and returned to work, building a bridge to the island and clearing the space out for my tent. On top of that, I also spent time carving out an area for a little farm where I planted and watered my seeds before entering my tent and going to sleep. Oh! On the morning of our 3rd day, I received another letter telling me to stop being a hermit and introduce myself to the townspeople, but being social was not on my to-do list. Instead, I tended to my crops and then did some exploring in the mine I uncovered, coming across our first wild spirit. this little soot sprite named Dusty. I had Panko drop kick him and then threw 2 rocks at him, bringing him down to 1 health, which felt like the perfect opportunity to catch the little guy. Problem was, I had no idea how, so I just kind of killed him instead. No! Wait, but I have flax. How do I tame them? Oh, I have to feed it during battle. Whoopsies. That revelation was too little too late, but while I was down there, I figured I'd gather stone for Asono's basement and even found another loot chest while being chased by this gemlin. Now that I knew how to tame spirits, I brought the gemlin's health down and then offered it a flax flower, which seemed to do the trick. As a reward, I received a spirit egg and decided to call the little guy Pooter. Honestly, the urge to start collecting all like 100 spirits in this game was too real, so I continued into the mines and expertly caught this little slime with a backwards hat, naming him Jellamy. After finding yet another chest with a sprinkler recipe, I decided to call it quits, and with my little conga line of friends, I headed into town to meet the locals. There was Farah, the blacksmith, who would be my go-to for tool upgrades, as well as Rowan, the shopkeeper, and Paolo, the carpenter. Wandering around town, I came across this warp whistle just sitting on a fountain. Like, it was literally just sitting there, so I took it? Is this theft? I don't know. I also discovered a beach-like area where I met Tobin, the fisherman, and while gathering stone in the area, I discovered another mine shaft. Farah had asked for some copper ore earlier, so I figured I'd hop in, but there were far too many rocks, and I wanted to keep exploring, so I decided to come back later. There was also a beautiful greenhouse where I came across Guyana again, who turns out she's a botanist. Like, I plant things. I'm just saying. Exhausted by like 23 different social interactions, I returned home and crafted up a cell crate, dropping in some stone to complete Asono's request, as well as some other gems I'd found for extra money. And with all my chores complete, I went on a little evening stroll up the mountain, and it was a long walk, but the view at the top was so worth it. I did not want to walk all the way down though, so I tried out my warp whistle for the first time, which conveniently teleported me back to town, and from there, I walked home and went to bed, bringing in my first ever profits. With a good night's rest, I decided to revisit the mineshaft in the beach area and patiently hammered my way through a ton of big boulders, getting a bunch of iron along the way. With that done, I headed to Farah's and dropped off the copper, and in return, she gave me the recipe for a furnace. Immediately, I got one furnace going for copper and another for iron, and while those were doing their thing, I continued wandering around, coming across what I thought was a mine entrance, but when I walked in, I found a very large man. For some reason, I decided it would be a good idea to walk off the edge. Obviously a bad choice, but spend some time recharging in the hot spring next door before heading home for the night. Once I'd taken the finished copper and iron ingots out of the furnaces, I headed straight to the dungeon I'd found yesterday, but this time, the big man was gone. I continued on anyway, crafting a bunch of bridges to avoid another near-death experience, and worked my way through this puzzle room, trying to get to the chest, but when I got there, no! I completely squandered it. And once I'd made it through again, I got a pretty pitiful reward and walked right into a battle with this absolute unit. Oh, lordy. Jellamy was almost knocked out completely, but we were able to clutch it, and this victory brought all of our spirits to level 4. Almost immediately after, we were thrown into another battle with this hop straw, which I really wanted to tame, but after whittling its health down to 3 and giving him a flax flower, I remembered I could only have 3 spirits in my medallion, so sadly, I let the little guy go. I continued through the dungeon, a sad alchemist, but you know, I love my spirits, so I entered the pocket dimension to level up their abilities, but when I exited the medallion... Whoa. I can't even stop it! Stop! No! 17 falls later, I passed out, and I was not very happy about it, to say the least. Like, not only did I not get to tame the hop straw, but I was repeatedly glitched off the island, and now it appears that I've overslept. Angrily, I walked to the hot springs and stewed for a while before entering the dungeon again and bridging across the gap without falling this time. Character development. But I should have taken this hot spring checkpoint as a sign of impending doom, because when I entered the next area, I came face to face with the guardian I'd seen earlier. It wasn't as bad as I thought though. He was no match for Panko and Pooter, who easily took him down. Yay! And received significant level ups for their efforts. With that obstacle passed, I entered the next area and came across this beautiful tree, and when I touched it with my grubby little fingers, it gave me a permanent stamina increase. After that successful dungeon crawl, we were due for some upgrades, so I headed to Farah's and purchased a reinforced hammer that would quickly come in handy as I spent the rest of the day gathering ore. Also, it turns out there's a skill tree in this game too. It has everything. Now, I had been eager to start flying around and exploring the islands, but couldn't figure out how to get cloth. But while checking my recipes on the morning of day 7, I realized I could turn my fiber into cloth and then use the recipe my mom had given me on day 1 to craft a balloon. After that, I finally met our final townsperson, Zed, the director of the Science Center, and he told me that if I brought him a level 5 spirit, he'd give me the blueprints for a spirit barn, which was very exciting news. I needed a way to collect more spirits, so I happily accepted. Using my new balloon, I very slowly set out for our first adventure and floated to another island, which was just adorable. I also released Pooter in order to free up a slot for another cooler spirit. Farewell, Pooter. You've served me well. I came across a couple level 6 spirits that would have definitely gotten me the barn blueprints, but for some reason, probably my low XP, I wasn't allowed to tame them. So instead, I got jump scared by this Baba Yaga house and had a little Howl's Moving Castle moment. For some reason, the first logical choice was to enter the house, and inside I found Magic Man, my favorite Adventure Time character. You're late. The winds blew you here. It's almost too late. Oh, hello. I'm the Magic Man. They used to call me Waldo, but not now. I live in a chicken house. Okay. Waldo the Magic Man asked me to complete dungeons throughout the world in order to collect and return shards of his memory, and since I'd already gotten one for my first dungeon, I figured I'd give it to him. With our business settled for now, I continued searching for level 5 spirits to tame and came across this shrine portal thing that sent me straight to Electric Boogaland. This was a scary place. Yay! I was getting continuously struck by lightning, and you know, looking back, I really should have seen this as a sign, because when I entered a battle, level 23! No, I wasn't even able to run away. Like, I didn't stand a chance. And just like that, Panko, Jelemy, and I were all dead. Fortunately, I had a savior watching over me. Thank you, Magic Man. But my sense of safety would not last long. No. No! Yeah, I died again? Back in Magic Man's arms, where I belong. On the morning of day 9, I made the wise decision to just go home and then rizzed up Guyana before taking the balloon to another island. This time, a little oasis island that looked far less menacing than the electric one. After a quick dip, I came across this gross-looking starfish guy who I decimated, and also this little shark guy, but there were no level 5 spirits, so I ballooned home while the sun set, which was actually quite beautiful. I'd been smelting ores in my furnaces for the past couple days, and after selling an iron bar to Farah, I received a crafting recipe for an anvil, which would be crucial for making protection charms. Would have been nice to get this before I was electrocuted, but hey, what are you gonna do? Anyways, I crafted up another furnace and got some moonstone smelting, since I would need it to make a moonstone enchanter to craft another broom, and while that was cooking, I continued exploring, ballooning over to the island left of my house. Instantly, it was clear that this wasn't just some normal island, and walking through the ruins of this old temple, I ran into a familiar face. Oh. Hello. Apparently, I had stumbled upon the Spring Temple, and after giving an offering to the angry spirits inside, I was able to enter. Long log. Oh, he's level 5. Finally, we had found our level 5 spirit, so I got Panko to bring it down to 8 health, and upon feeding it a flax flower, yes! I shall name him Douglas. Not only was I able to catch the spirit for the spirit barn recipe, but I also got an Alchemist's wand, which allowed me to instantly grow plants using my stamina. However, to get to the next stage of the temple, I have to get an iron ingot. Shoot. So I decided to head out for now and balloon to the next island over. Is this a maze? What? I struggled through this hedge maze, eventually catching sight of what I assumed was another dungeon. And several in-game hours later, oh my god, finally, I managed to get to the end. There wasn't much time left in the day, so I ballooned through the dungeon, which was not the safest option. That was horrifying. But after navigating through the darkness, I made it to the Guardian battle and managed to beat him without much trouble, netting me another memory shard for Magic Man, a bunch of good loot, and a permanent stamina increase. And somehow I still managed to make it home before my 2 a.m. curfew. Like, look at me go, getting stuff done and respecting my bedtime. With Douglas now in tow, I randomly stumbled across the Science Center for the first time. And I don't know what type of funding Zed receives, but oh my gosh. Yeah, he pays real good. Pocketing a cheeky 5 grand for my spirit research, I headed to Farah and bought a reinforced axe before visiting the mines to gather some more iron. After tossing that into the furnace, I was able to smelt an iron bar and a copper bar for the second offering and flew straight back to the spring temple. I barely made it with only 13 stamina remaining, but unfazed, I entered the temple, offered up my precious ingots, and then grew a vine bridge to the next stage, where I came face to face with an even larger long log. This long log was beefy, but after breaking down his armor with a little 1-2 punch and some tactical rock throws, Panko, Jelemy, and Douglas were able to defeat him. Once I'd claimed my prize, which included some ladder plant seeds, I checked out the next offering, which required a moonstone and clay. The moonstone part was easy, but I had no idea where to find clay, so I headed home. And I mean, this game is literally so new that there isn't a wiki to figure out how to do stuff, so I had to brainstorm ways to find or make clay, which was actually super refreshing. I tried baking random stuff in the furnaces, but nothing would go in. I tried hoeing in the mines and outside, and that didn't work either, so I just gave up and went to bed. The next morning, I received a letter from Zed which included some spirit lenses, allowing me to see a spirit's level in the wild. This wasn't my only upgrade though, because after crafting up a Moonstone Enchanter, I unlocked a ton of cool recipes. I wanted to go for the broom because my balloon was feeling a bit slow and frankly unsafe, so in preparation for the upgrade, I gathered some materials and tossed some things into the furnaces before heading off on my dinky balloon. I really wanted to find clay to unlock the next stage in the Spring Temple, but unfortunately, hoeing the ground randomly was still producing nothing. I did get a surprise visit from Magic Man that day, so I returned another memory shard and then continued on my journey in search of clay, which ended like it started. That is, empty-handed. But I did stumble across another dungeon, quickly thwomping this fishbow until something piqued my interest. Oh, wait a minute, is that a lizard with a snorkel? Snorko, I want. Unfortunately, Snorko's gang was too powerful, nearly knocking out my entire party. I made a daring escape into the next area to level up my abilities and add some more cards to my decks. And after a little bit of an oopsie, the balloon! I continued through the dungeon, and unfortunately I got a bit too greedy with finding the loot chests and ended up getting into a battle that me and my squad just could not win. After being saved yet again by the lovely Magic Man, I received a letter from Zed asking for rare and valuable materials dropped by spirits, aka spirit poop, but since I needed a barn for that first, I decided to try out the dungeon once again instead. This time I was able to make it to the final Guardian battle, but he brought friends. Panko was the first to go down, but with my remaining spirits, I was able to make some good progress, and after a lot of lily pads to heal up the squad and a couple close calls, it was just Douglas and the Guardian. This battle was a long one, but almost 15 minutes later, I emerged victorious, securing some loot and another stamina increase. I decided to continue exploring islands to the left, hoping to find some clay, but just like last time, I found another dungeon instead. Although it was getting late, I made my way through the dungeon anyway and quickly found myself in a bit of a pickle. Luckily, I was able to get out of said pickle with my warp whistle and headed home for the night. After sleeping in my own bed for once, and not the chicken house bed, I had a lot of mail to sift through, namely some quests from townspeople asking for spirit buddies. Like Paolo wants an Oaken? Why can't he get it himself? First things first though, I finally had the recipe for the spirit barn and I desperately wanted to catch more spirits, so that was my first priority. I cleared out some space, placed my barn on the top of my little slice of paradise, and then crafted up a broom before retiring Jelemy to the barn. Thank you, Jelemy. You've done wonderfully. Honestly, I'd been neglecting my home island in favor of exciting adventures abroad, so I decided to spend the rest of the day cleaning up, scything a bunch of fiber to make cloth, and crafting up some stalls in the barn for future spirits. I also made a nest for the egg I got at the very beginning from taming Pooter, so we'll see what this guy hatches into. Once I'd crafted a decoration station and placed down some safety fences, adventure was calling once again, so I took my new broom out for a spin, and it was a huge upgrade from the balloon. Look how fast I zip! I eventually landed on this weird toxic island and came across a bunch of new spirits, including an emo shroom and this magnificent bird, but unfortunately I wasn't able to tame any of them. I did find some mandrake seeds though, and eventually also stumbled across the chicken house, where I returned another shard to Magic Man. Soon after, I came across another dungeon and looted all the chests before entering battle with the Guardian, and wait, is that an Ooblets reference? No way! With only 2 spirits in my party and no healing items, the battle was not going well. And honestly, love Magic Man, but I didn't want to spend another night in the chicken house, so I did the responsible thing and fled so I could go home. It had been days, and I was starting to get worried because I still hadn't found any clay, but on day 16, I walked walked into the barn and there was literally a piece of clay just sitting on the ground. I don't know if Jelemy pooped it out or what, but I was so overjoyed. I immediately brought the clay and Moonstone straight to the Spring Temple and unlocked the final stage. Oh, so is that the Kirby tree? Oh my god! That's amazing! I was really not a prepared spirit trainer though, because halfway through the battle, I realized I still did not have any healing items, so I fled the scene and paid Rowan a visit, buying a bunch of lily pad seeds from the shop. With only 2 spirits in my party, my chances of defeating the Kirby tree boss were pretty slim, so my next goal was to tame a 3rd spirit. On my search, I realized I'd stumbled across a treasure map spot, so I dug it up and then entered this mine shaft where I tamed a brick house that I named Bronk and a little soot sprite guy as well. As I awoke the next day, I realized I'd apparently been neglecting to feed Jelemy in the barn. Didn't even know you could feed him, so yikes. But I headed straight to the barn to give him some food. With those farming chores over and done with, I continued exploring, and now that I had the extra space in my barn, I was able to tame a hop straw, which I'd been meaning to catch for a while. Just for the Ghibli vibes, you know? And speaking of catching, there was a game mechanic that I realized I hadn't even touched yet, and that was fishing. So I swung over and said hi to Tobin and got myself a fishing rod, and with my little posse in the background cheering me on, I cast my first line. I'm gonna be real, I've played every farming RPG under the sun, but the fishing mechanic in this game is my absolute favorite. It's so unique. Honestly, I've never seen anything like it, but I found it so incredibly fun. With a fishing rod under my belt, I continued on exploring and hopped into a mine shaft for a while, but when I resurfaced, I found myself in some sort of magical storm? I had no idea. It was either a meteor shower or like really violent rain, but I continued on through it, coming across an Oaken, which was actually the spirit that Paolo wanted, and I was able to tame it no problem, along with this Lookachu, which gave me a psychic spirit egg. That psychic egg came at a good time too, because after checking on my spirits the next day, I found that our first egg had hatched into a 2nd hop straw. The one that I hatched was a lot better than the one I tamed though, so I let the old one go and then put the psychic egg in a new nest. While exploring islands that afternoon, I realized that the gates I'd been finding could be activated, which allowed me to choose a talisman for training my spirits. I felt so dumb. I've walked by so many of these portal thingies and it's whatever. As I continued on, I came across another warp point, but my excitement immediately died when I ended up back on an electric island. Luckily, I spawned right next to a talisman gate, and I managed to find another one on this toxic marsh island as well, but let me tell you, I was not physically or emotionally prepared for the electric islands yet, so I whistled home, and honestly, I'd uncovered a bunch of area on the map, which was super cool to see. The next day, I headed straight to Paolo's, giving him the Oaken he had asked for, and while I was in town, I stopped into the blacksmith upgrading my scythe and hammer before stopping by to see Zed at the Science Center. Apparently, the rain I had experienced a couple nights ago was actually a psychic storm. And further, I learned that they happen every night on one random island and actually summon psychic spirits. I sold my scientific findings to Zed for a generous 4,600 gold and then set my sights on defeating the Kirby tree boss in the temple, feeding talismans to my spirit in preparation, and then returning to the spring tree with 5 lily pads and a dream. I must say though, the Kirby tree's long log decoy gambit was really slowing my progress, but after a super clutch card draw, we were able to bring it down to half health in a single turn. From there, we lost Hopstraw and then Panko, but with Douglas just hanging on. I tried throwing one final drop kick and then... No way! Oh, that took forever. I got the Earth Seal. Wee-hee. With the Spring Temple completed, I returned home a victorious Alchemist and headed to the tavern to celebrate. Feeling brave, I decided to talk to Guyana, but after a failed attempt to woo her, I called it a night. You can't win them all. I then spent the next morning doing some island chores, feeding the spirits in the barn, smelting some ore, and clearing out the surrounding area to do some decorating in the future. With fences encircling our central island and a couple paths sprinkled around, I decided to do more exploring with the goal of filling out some easy areas of the map. So I took off on my broom and ended up on a poison marsh island and gave fishing another try. I'd gotten a quest from Tobin a while back to catch rare fish across the hundreds of islands, but since he wanted Moonstone quality fish, I needed a lot of XP before I could get to that point, so I worked on building some up for the rest of the night. And I guess Tobin could sense that we were getting going on the fishing, because the next morning I received a letter from him asking for a little snorkel lizard dude, but like, no, I wanted one first. In any case, I continued on with my island duties, crafting up an anvil to make protection charms, but I first needed the elemental materials to make them, so I set out to gather some. The only one I managed to acquire was the bolt seeds from my absolute fave island, but when I went home and planted them, I was told they might not have enough time to grow. Like, what? There's seasons? Well, you know, seasons can't stop me because I wasn't aware of them, so I crafted up some sprinklers and set them down anyway. As I entered the spirit barn the next day, I noticed a new member of the family. Oh, what is that? Little Pasho had some amazing psychic abilities, so I added her to the party and left Panko in the barn. Sorry, bud. But with my new team assembled, I headed into town to upgrade my axe and sell some funky fish to Tobin. With more XP and a much stronger team, I was able to return to this beach island from a while ago and easily tame the Sandcrashel and the Bebo before completely deforesting the next island over to build more barn stalls. Upon waking up the next morning, I built the new spirit stalls, but as I was trying to place them down, I accidentally activated my whistle and warped into town. Annoyed, I took the long walk home and placed them down correctly this time, assigning Sandcrashel and Bebo to their new homes. And honestly, the innate urge to catch them all was so immensely powerful that all I wanted to do was explore and catch more spirits. As I was tackling another dungeon, I managed to get a bunch of loot and tame this Fluffox, which was very precious. The Guardian fight was also stupidly easy, so I gladly took the stamina increase and this little psychic cat that I stumbled across on the way home. It took me a while to nab them though, and I knew I was too far from home to make it alive, so I spent the rest of the night collecting materials, including these new yarrow seeds, before eventually passing out mid-bridge. I woke up in the chicken house once again. It's like my second home at this point, and flew home, unsuccessfully talking up Guyana at the plant shop before selling some of my yarrow seeds for the quest sheet assigned to sell one of every seed type. There were still a lot of seeds to collect, but in order to get around and spelunk more efficiently, I knew that I needed to upgrade my tools. One day of ingot making later, I headed to Farah's and upgraded my hoe and my watering can. With that done and out of the way, I set off once again, returning a memory shard to the Magic Man and then discovering the Summer Temple, our second major temple of the 4. To get in though, I would need a beach peach and a pinwheel flower, both of which I had never seen or heard of before. I figured they would probably become available once the summer came around, so I continued on with my island business, checking on my barn spirits. Oh, what the... I also gathered a dream drop from Lookachu, which seemed super rare, and then spent the rest of the day organizing my furnaces and fishing for XP, selling all the fish to Tobin and making a bit of progress on our funky fish collection. Day 28, which was originally supposed to be my final day of the month, was full of surprises, to say the least. During our exploring, I came across the Fall Temple, but again, I had no idea how to get my hands on a grumpkin or a spiky plant, so I kept flying around, suddenly finding a very scary fire island. As soon as I landed, I instantly caught on fire and only managed to grab a fire flower before I realized I was taking way too much damage. So I flew off, but it was an out of the frying pan into the fire kind of deal, because things did not get much better when I entered a dungeon on the Electric Island. I had no choice but to whistle home. It was just too dangerous and not at all how I wanted to spend our final day. A little shaken up after that, I awoke on our first day of summer and our actual last day of the month, because let's be real, I wasn't going to end the video on yesterday's disaster. Now that the season had changed, I was finding all sorts of new forage, including the beach peach and the pinwheel flower I needed to open up the Summer Temple. I immediately flew over there and put my offerings on the altar to open up the doors. What a funny little guy. And Douglas absolutely swept, knocking out all 3 spirits, and for this victory, I got flippers! An ancient alchemist tool. Oh, sure. To get to the next stage, though, I needed a lantern and a jewelfish, which at this point I didn't have, so with that, I headed home. But somehow, in just 1 month, I managed to stumble across dozens of incredibly cool islands, dungeons, and temples, while also building up a pretty decent team of spirits, if I do say so myself. Somehow, all my other spirits just stopped following me around, though, except Douglas. Douglas sticks around. Get it? Sticks? I really hope you enjoyed watching this video as much as I enjoyed making it. I honestly am absolutely in love with this game, and another huge thank you to Raw Fury for reaching out and for sponsoring this video. If you think this game seems like something you'd be into, and honestly it has a little something for everybody, it's available now on Steam again, and it's absolutely wonderful. Well, that is all I have for today, but I will see you guys next time. Bye!